good afternoon, or evening, or morning, depending on which time of the day you're watching this. You are once again with Mr. Wayne, and I am going to try my best to assist you with what we are doing for week 6 for Earth Science. One of the few things that you might have noticed is there seems to be a little bit less content on Schoology and a few items on OneNote. And then for our awesome crew, you might notice that one of the items on OneNote might seem a little foreign or might seem a little kind of difficult to comprehend. That is because you will be needing to be using our online textbook. And when you join us for class in person on Monday, we will help you guys get that set up and get you guys rolling on that. So some very quick things I just want to kind of go over with everyone on what we are doing is when we go into OneNote for week 6, you'll notice that this week is very short. We're kind of trying to focus on you guys catching up, kind of keeping up the par, and kind of keeping in mind that this coming week we have conferences, and we're kind of beginning to wrap up the end of our semester with you guys. Believe it or not, we're only going to be seeing you guys about 4 more times, and then you guys are done with Earth Science for essentially for a semester until we see you all come third quarter. So we're beginning to kind of wrap things up and kind of finishing up with our last unit. So we're proceeding forward with plate tectonics. So we're going to be talking about convergent, divergent, transform plate boundaries, talking about Alfred Wegener and the different forms of evidence that he used to support his theory on continental drift, which ultimately becomes plate tectonics. So for this week, for your graph analysis, you have a beautiful cross section of our exterior and interior of our planet, going all the way down to the core. Down below is 5 simple questions based off of that image that you just need to interpret. Should be pretty straightforward. Nothing too tricky with our graph analysis for the week. For bell work day 1 and bell work day 2, this is going to be partially analyzing the information you might already know, or if you kind of jump back to your graph analysis, this might help out a little bit answering bell work day 1 and bell work day 2. I am going to skip lesson 2.2 for the moment and come back and revisit that to explain that in a little further detail. For this week, for items that you should be completing at home, you should be watching the overview video, should be completing that graph analysis, and then you're going to be looking at that lesson 2.2 and completing that lesson 2.2 item. So let me go ahead and jump onto that right now to kind of show you what's going on with this. In years previous, you might have done something called kind of like a directive reading in either life science or another class that you have taken. It's going to be a similar format where you're going to be using the online textbook to answer the questions for lesson 2.2. This is a wonderful job that as you read through that lesson, this does go in order, so as you're reading it, it flows with it. You can answer it at the same time. If you have a split screen, you can have this lesson here on one screen. You can have the textbook on your second screen and kind of split it. Or if you want to minimize the 2 different windows down and have them side by side, you can work around that way. And that might actually be a fairly useful idea instead of jumping between screens. So with our Packer folks, you should, when you're in class, you should have already got the online textbook set up with either myself, Miss Keefe, or Mr. Fritz, depending on what section you're in. For the folks, my Austin people who are going to be joining us on Monday, we'll be walking you through that. But essentially, we are going to be setting you up with this online textbook, and this is really easy to use. And I just want to cover this fairly quick with you guys, so you have an idea of how to access this when the time comes. So once you get set up, signed in, registered for your particular class, you are going to be clicking on the textbook itself. Once that opens up, you'll be coming to this screen here. If you go up to the upper left corner, there is a kind of lighter blue tab and a darker blue tab. The light blue tab breaks everything up by units and chapters, and then the dark blue tab breaks everything up by the lessons within that unit and chapter. So for this particular 2.2 assignment, we would be going to chapter 2. So click on chapter 2, and then you would be going to lesson 2, and you would click on that. Once you have selected those two options, then the online textbook will essentially calibrate itself to the location you selected. You can open that ebook, and then it will redirect you to your online text. So right here on our lesson 2.2, we're talking about the Earth's interiors. So clues the Earth interior, what's below the Earth's surface. We can click to the next page talking about temperature, pressure, and depth, using earthquake waves to determine the interior. And then they do a wonderful job talking about the basic layers, such as our crust, continuing on with our mantle in the different kind of subcategories, breaking those up, and then ultimately breaking it all the way down into the core. And then a few other interesting things. We'll talk about the Earth's magnetic field and the magnetosphere. And then that's essentially our lesson 2.2. So we jump back to our OneNote. As you can see, this goes along with, we have our Earth's interior, temperature and pressure, using those earthquake waves, the different layers, talking about the mantle, then we're in the core, and then into those magnetic field and magnetosphere. So this will follow along with that online textbook. So once again, if you're part of that Packer crew that was with us Thursday and Friday, you've been logged on, you've been registered with the online textbook and classes, so you're good to go to fill this out. My Austin folks, Austin group, when you come on Monday, we'll get you set up, established, and then you guys will be good to go for the remainder of the week. Other things I want to point out is when you are in school, we'll be covering that bell work day 1 and day 2, and then we're going to be working on, once again, accessing that online textbook, and then we're going to be going to do our rock identification lab. This will be entered as an assessment, so it's important that you take this lab serious, that you follow the lab etiquette and protocols, and you fill out every component of that lab. Now, when you go to the lab, and this is going to be a rough idea or at least a rough map of what your formal sheet's going to look like. When you go to the lab, there's going to be 13 different rocks. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to take observations of the rock. Is it foliated? Is it non-foliated? Is there folds and bends? Is there sediment? Is there clast? Is there fossils? Does it appear to have crystals? No crystals? Does it look like it cooled instantly, so it's more kind of glassy, like obsidian? So you're going to be writing down observations of what you see in the rocks. Once you are done with that, then you can establish, based off of your observations and the notes we've done in class, what kind of rock type is that? Is that going to be igneous? Is it sedimentary? Or is it metamorphic? Now, on your formal lab sheet, there will be another column where you are going to try and name the rock itself. And a great resource for this, and this will be provided for you guys as well, is if you go to the website, and up here in the corner, it's a very short one, geology.com/rocks. It brings you to a website where it is broken down into igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary. Under those three categories, we have the different examples of rocks that include under each type. So, for example, under igneous, we have things like basalt, we have diorite, we have obsidian, we have pumice, we have scoria, we have rhyolite. Under metamorphic, we have things like gneiss and marble and phyllite and schist and slate. And then under sedimentary, we have things like chalk, chert, coal, flint, rock salt, iron ore, shale, siltstone, sandstone, and things like that. So once you establish what are the observations and what kind of rock type do you think it is, you can use this website here to help you identify what is the rock's name, or try your best at doing so. So this is going to be the formal lab that we're going to be doing. The last thing that we're working on this week is we do have our rock unit test, part 1 and part 2. Our Packer folks, you took that on Friday. Austin folks, you'll be taking that on Tuesday. It is going to be a 2-part test. Part 1 is multiple choice, which is going to be on Schoology for you guys to complete. It is going to be kind of nicely formatted that once you take it, it'll give you your score instantly, so you'll know how you did. Part 2 will be a written portion, paper pencil, that you can work on after you are done with part 1, and you'll hand in once you're completed with that section. So that's kind of a quick overview of what this week looks like, kind of as a rundown. You're going to be doing that formal lab. We're going to be helping you set up that textbook. There is that test coming up. So there are some study sources you can use in weeks previous. Make sure your notes are organized, because they might be helpful to study from or even use as we approach that test coming up. Other than that, I hope this video helped you. I apologize that my video for my computer is not working currently, so you only get the audio. So if you have any questions, feel free to email myself, Ms. Keefe, Mr. Fritz, or ask us in person when you see us. Otherwise, Packers, we will not be seeing you Thursday or Friday because we are on MEA break over that time period. So we'll be seeing you in 2 weeks almost. So have a wonderful MEA break, and hopefully we'll see you all soon. Have a good night. Talk to you later.